they just...
Yeah, they follow. Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that, there was one before. Are there some stones that do it and some they don't?
It seems here that there are some rocks that give benefit to others by bringing out water, and then there are some rocks that at least do sajda. But in the case of the condition of Bani Israel, they were not even providing benefit to anyone, and they weren't doing so they weren't benefiting themselves.
I was thinking the whole creation will be the only one that could say yes.
Or chins, yeah.
I was thinking the rest of the creation that, you know, those read or whatever non-existent, not living what would we call it?
Inanimate.
Yeah. So they would not have any will of their own, so.
Yeah, that's our general belief.
They would fall on Santa everyone. They would follow the law.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about humans. Right? Okay, test. Okay, نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So we've now completed the material, and I want to give you an overview of what's ahead for us in terms of the rest of the surah. And some of this you've already seen from me quite a few times. So again, to recap an overall view of the surah. The first part we call the introduction. Anybody remember what the ayahs are of the introduction? Epic fail. Okay, 1 to 39. Yes, give them. Okay. The second part is the address to the children of Israel. Okay. The third part is the address to the contemporary believers. In another way to put it, the second part is the Ummah of Musa, peace be upon him, and the third part is the Ummah of Muhammad, peace be upon him. That's probably the easier way to understand it. And then last is the conclusion.
Ummah would have it. I mean, Ummah would not have a fixed definition of anything. Prophet Musa was a Muslim, so we believe that the message would have some sort of وَمَا لِلْأُمَّةِ إِلَّا خَلَا فِيهَا نَذِيرٌ.
Okay.
There has not been any difficult.
No, I mean, essentially, Ummah in the sense of the followers of Musa, peace be upon him, and Ummah in the sense of the followers of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Right? But yes, they are identical in the sense that they are all Muslim, but they are still speaking to two different groups. So when Allah is addressing Bani Israel, I don't believe He's addressing me directly. Indirectly, yes. But when the commands are given to those people, who are the commands for? Those people who consider themselves to be part of Bani Israel. You know? So.
But in essential things, we are basically the same. Respect your parents.
Yeah, the most basic essentials. But I mean, that would be like saying, you know, all novels tell the exact same story, or all movies tell the exact same story. Meaning, when we get into the details, then they become very, very different. You know? But in the address to the children of Israel, we said that there's two parts. And what we covered in this course is part A here, which is ayah 40 through 74. Okay. Part B is ayah 75 to 123. Okay. Now, the address to the contemporary believers, what ayah does it begin at? Begins at ayah 75. Ayah 75 through 284. So it overlaps. While we are in the middle of part 2, part 3 begins. And we see it right with this next ayah. Ayah 75. أَفَتَطْمَعُونَ أَن يُؤْمِنُوا لَكُمْ. Have you any hope that they will believe in you, that they will be, this translation says that they will be true to you. Let's find a different translation. It's big tall. Let's try Tafsir Usmani's translation, see what he says. Okay. Do you still fancy that they will believe you? Okay, all these translations are interesting. Okay. Do you have any hope that they will believe in you? But who is Allah speaking to here? He's speaking to the contemporary believers about the children of Israel. So up to this point, the whole conversation, when it says your hearts, you killed a man, and so forth and so on. Allah was speaking to the children of Israel. This is your story, your history. But now with Ayah 75, it changes. Now Allah is speaking to us about them. And there's also a very important point here, that in our desire, we want everyone to believe in Allah. Okay? But what is this section about, starting from Ayah 75? So I'm going to turn the page here. So part 2a, as we said, is essentially the history of the children of Israel. In the sense of them moving from favored status to unfavored. Okay. And as we've been saying, what is a key reason? It's lack of gratitude. That at the core is lack of gratitude, and then secondarily, the people who influenced them were corrupt, or were not effective. Effective in some cases might be a better word. And then 2b, which is essentially starting from Ayah 75, is the forms of kufr. Okay. How does kufr manifest? That is what the whole next section from Ayah 75 to 123 is about. Okay. What are all the different behaviors that people do? So, for example, Ayah 75 all the way up through Ayah 81, maybe even Ayah 82. What is this about? All the misbehavior that people do with revelation. So let's look at it. Ayah 75, do you desire, do you wish that they will believe in you even though a party of them used to hear the word of Allah, understood it, and then they changed it, they distorted it? Okay. Ayah 76 and 77. When they meet those who believe, they say, we believe. But when they are in private, they say, are you telling them, are you revealing to them what Allah has disclosed to you? So they may use it to argue against you. You have no reason. Do you not use your sense? What is the second misbehavior? They're hiding truth, hiding revelation. You see in some of the narrations of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when some of the companions are dying, they'll share some hadith narrations. Why? Because they're afraid that they're going to get in trouble for not sharing everything. In our tradition, there's no taboos. Right? Our tradition, there's no secrets. I mean, we have personal secrets in terms of our lives and our families and such and so forth. But in terms of deen, there's no taboos, there's no secrets. Okay? I mean, there's issues of wisdom, properly sharing information. But here, the second wrong thing is to hide revelation. The third wrong thing that they do, and we'll talk about this in more detail in the next semester whenever it gets organized, inshallah. Third wrong is that there are some people who are illiterate. They have no knowledge of the book, but they speak out of conjecture. The first two, we don't have as much of an issue right now in our community. People changing the word because, I mean, how do you do that with the Quran? Everybody can test what you're saying. Or people even hiding the truth. There's still so much knowledge in the air, it's harder to do that than we might realize. The third one is when people speak out of conjecture. Right? This is a common issue in our community. Sorry? Okay. Ayah 79, a fourth wrong. Those who make up something completely fabricate something, and they say it's coming from Allah. Okay? Again, I don't think that's as much of an issue in our community here. Okay? So woe to them for what they have written, and woe to them for what they have earned. Okay? And then so that was 4. The 5th wrong is a little bit more subtle. Here, these people say the fire will not touch us for more than a few days. Okay? And they say, have you taken a promise from Allah? Because Allah does not go against His promise. Or do you say about Allah what you do not know? Okay? Now, we also have a teaching like this in our tradition, right? That either some people or all believers or everyone whoever goes to hell will eventually go to paradise, right? But what is the issue here? These are people who are making theological claims without providing foundation. If I make a theological claim to you, let's say something simple, which inshallah you'll never hear me say, you're guaranteed to go to heaven. Okay. What should you ask for? Proof. Okay. For example, suppose someone today says, I had a vision, Allah spoke to me and told me I have to sacrifice my son just like Ibrahim alayhi salam. What would we say? Well, we'd probably say you're crazy, right? But what would be a more formal response? We'd say, all right, give us proof. What's your proof? Okay. I'll give you an example. This is true. Now, should I give you this example? Well, turn off the camera. I'll give you the example. Remind me. No. There's a reason I can't share with you. Okay. But you remind me after the camera's off, and then I'll share with you. Okay. But again, what are we saying here? We see 5. How many did I list? 5 things? 5 wrong things that people do in relation to revelation. Okay. The next section.
That previous one, was it also underestimating the promise of the paper? Because it said it shall not touch us for more than a few days.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it can ask. But it could be the same point, that if they're just saying that, okay, it's only going to be a few days, they could be speaking literally or a metaphor, but the response is still the same. What's your proof? Right? Well, the response would still be the same, meaning bring the proof. Right? Yeah, Muhammad.
Those 5 things are those things that the Jewish rabbis were doing.
So, are these things that those scholars, those rabbis were doing? Based on Ayah 75, it seems that that's the case, right? Okay. Now, again, what is the concern for us, right? Concern for us is, all right, here's the practices that we find. 1, we desire everyone to believe in Allah, but there's some people who aren't going to do it because of their relationship with the book, the misconduct with the book. 2nd, also, we have to be careful about what is our misconduct with the book. Yep. So, but what is the point that I'm making here? One section here is how do people misbehave regarding the book. The next big section starts at Ayah 83. What are the wrong things that people do in terms of their pledges, their pacts, their commitments? That people make a commitment and then they turn back on it. Okay? Or they make a commitment and they turn back on part of it. Okay? If I'm making a pact, I have to follow the whole thing. Okay. Now you can sum up this entire section. One of the questions that I raised earlier today is why do people reject? And we said a few things. One is ingratitude. Another is that I have to face responsibility. It's easier for me to run away from responsibility or run away from my reality than it is to actually face responsibility, face reality. Okay? I can live in a fool's paradise. This, at the core, it's the end of Ayah 87. Whenever messengers come to you with something that you do not like, one response that people give is they become arrogant. Remember when we spoke about Iblis, al-Rajim, the devil, it's not so much that it was arrogance that prevented him from doing sajda. The issue is he refused to do sajda. Then he hid behind arrogance. And if that's not enough, what's the second thing that people do? You start accusing the messenger of lying. Okay? And this is exactly what we see in the story of the Quraysh with the Prophet, peace be upon him. First, when he started calling people to his message, they laughed at him, they mocked him. When that wasn't enough, then they started character assassination. They started lying about him. Okay? And then when that wasn't enough, they take the last resort, which is to kill them. That was weird. Okay. So, what are we saying? That, again, at the core, I mean, this whole greater section, I'm not going into too much detail. We said that this section is about forms of kufr. But why do people engage in kufr? It's because at the core they're faced with something that they don't want to face. Okay? And so they're hiding. They hide behind arrogance. If that's not enough, they'll just call it lies. Okay? If that's not enough, sorry?
He saw Allah face to face.
Okay.
And yet he still has become a kafir.
Okay.
And if you isn't something to do with the character,
Well, the example you're giving is exactly like the example of the rocks that we just spoke about, right? They saw a miracle happen. The devil saw, a'udhu billah, the Rajim, he saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it should cause more belief, but in fact it made them more hard. Why? Perhaps because of misconduct or envy in the case of the devil.
if he knew more than any person,
Sure.
we would know, we don't know what
Sure.
it's like.
Sure.
This guy knows everything,
And he rejected.
and he rejects. Maybe he finds Allah is very compassionate and he let me go or something.
Maybe. Could be wishful thinking, yeah. Yeah. The second big issue is why do people reject? Okay. This we find in Ayah 92. Okay. And that is that in the 92 and 93, I should say, that if you surrender yourself to something other than Allah, whatever comes from Allah, you're going to find to be, a'udhu billah, repulsive. In the case of Bani Israel, the language is that the love of the calf was in their hearts. So when they were told, listen to what you are being given, they say, in the middle of this Ayah 93, we hear and we disobey. Think back to what we spoke about in the first semester of when we have the metaphor of the man who is kindling a fire and then the light goes everywhere, but for some people it causes them darkness. Why would it cause darkness? Because my love is for something else. Just like if I get so thoroughly addicted to alcohol, if you start giving me natural food, I'm going to reject it. And that's how it is with guidance. If my love for something else permeates me like it's going through my veins, then guidance I'm going to reject.
Children, wife, and parents, and others kind of love are very much in
Sure, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about something, it could be love for my nation.
When mother tell the children, they, the light of my eyes, or, this some sort of shit there. Even the talks about even children, make shit with us.
Okay, but again, it's if it contradicts, right? If my love for my child makes me disobey Allah, then that's exactly this issue, right? If we think of we'll keep it at that the love that I have, the natural loves, family, spouse, those things, it should help me in terms of getting closer to Allah, right? Anyone who's had children, what do you experience? Like a way to love that you never imagined you could, right? Especially with the first child, no matter how the first child might behave. But the point is that should, that should be a pathway to getting closer to Allah. But if the two are contradicting, and I'm turning to love of the child over love for Allah, then it becomes what you're talking about. Okay. Well, let me just continue. Okay, the next big thing is that, and this is hard for a lot of people, although maybe not as much as it needs to be, that when we are becoming Muslim, it's not as simple, or not only as simple as believing in Allah and believing in the Messenger, peace be upon him. What else do you have to believe in? Whatever Allah tells us to believe in, which includes angels, right? And includes quite a few other things. So that's the next aspect of kufr. How does kufr manifest? That some people will believe in part and reject part. The next section from there, looking at Ayah 102, another way that kufr manifests is that I may rely more upon illicit means of accomplishing things than revelation. So here we have some people who are turning to magic. They're even turning to the angels teach us how to do this. The angels are saying we have no responsibility over you. But why would someone do this? Because they don't have as much confidence in the ayahs. Think about this. How many times have we taught and do we say that, okay, recite the last two quls, the muwazzatan, as protection. But look at these ayahs as really, really heavy, very, very powerful ayahs, powerful surahs. It's very easy to underestimate how powerful they are. And so I might decide, all right, the ayahs are not strong, so I'm going to resort to other things like black magic. Okay? Another way that kufr manifests is not enough confidence in the tradition. The last few big ways. One is essentially selfishness in terms of guidance, which is in reality a lack of guidance. But we have a whole series of ayahs speaking about people who are jealous of you. They want nothing good to happen to you. And in fact, they would rather that you turn from belief into kufr. Now, any believer should never ever have that view. That doesn't make any sense. Okay? But some people even have jealousy in matters of belief. And that is another behavior of kufr. Now, these are just some summary points about this next section. But the whole next section is essentially this discussion about the forms of kufr. Okay? So this is also warning you that, okay, the material that we would be covering in the next semester is not going to be happy material at all. Right? It's going to be very, very unhappy material, but inshallah we'll find it to be of benefit. Right? The first class, everything was so happy and nice, you know. This last class, things were getting more historical. We were learning a lot of things about our community. And then the next class would be even more serious and unhappy. So that's essentially all that I have for this material. Next week, inshallah, we're going to do a full review of at least ayah 40 through 74 in high speed, going through everything, all the key points, and then I don't know if we'll have any other celebration like we did last time. We'll see, inshallah. Okay, wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Oh, I should ask, does anybody have any other questions? Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. May Allah reward you all for your participation and your patience, and I hope that this was of benefit, and inshallah have a safe ride home, and maybe inshallah we'll see you next week. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Oh, yeah, example.